A Life Expectancy Essay. Chapter 1. Increase Your Lifespan. Life Expectancy Essay at en.wikipedia.org/wiki/life_expectancy. Human life expectancy is a statistical measure of the estimate of the average remaining years of life at a given age. The most commonly used measure is life expectancy at birth, LEB. Human remains from the early Bronze Age indicate an LEB of 24. In 2019, world LEB was 73.3. A combination of high infant mortality and deaths in young adulthood from accidents, epidemics, plagues, wars, and childbirth, before modern medicine was widely available, significantly lowers LEB. For example, a society with a LEB of 40 would have relatively few people dying at exactly 40, most will die before 30 or after 55. In populations with high infant mortality rates, LEB is highly sensitive to the rate of death in the first few years of life. Because of this sensitivity, LEB can be grossly misinterpreted, leading to the belief that a population with a low LEB would have a small proportion of older people. A different measure, such as life expectancy at age 5, can be used to exclude the effect of infant mortality to provide a simple measure of overall mortality rates other than in early childhood. For instance, in a society with a life expectancy of 30, it may nevertheless be common to have a 40-year remaining time span at age 5, but not a 60-year one. Aggregate population measures such as the proportion of the population in various age groups are also used alongside individual-based measures such as formal life expectancy when analyzing population structure and dynamics. Pre-modern societies had universally higher mortality rates and lower life expectancies at every age for both males and females. Life expectancy, longevity, and maximum lifespan are not synonymous. Longevity refers to the relatively long lifespan of some members of a population. Maximum lifespan is the age at death for the longest-lived individual of a species. The longest verified lifespan for any human is that of Frenchwoman Jeanne Calment, who is verified as having lived to age 122 years, 164 days, between February 21, 1875 and August 4, 1997. Life expectancy at birth in years. Paleolithic. With modern hunter-gatherer populations' estimated average life expectancy at birth of 33 years, life expectancy for the 60% reaching age 15 averages 39 remaining years. Neolithic. Based on early Neolithic data, life expectancy at age 15 would be 28-33 years. Bronze Age and Iron Age. Based on early and Middle Bronze Age data, life expectancy at age 15 would be 28-36 years. Classical Greece. Based on Athens Agora and Corinth data, life expectancy at age 15 would be 37-41 years. Most Greeks and Romans died young. About half of all children died before adolescence. Those who survived to the age of 30 had a reasonable chance of reaching 50 or 60. The truly elderly, however, were rare. Because so many died in childhood, life expectancy at birth was probably between 20 and 30 years. Ancient Rome. If a person survived to age 20, they could expect to live around 30 years more. Life expectancy was probably slightly longer for women than men. For the 55 to 65% surviving to age 5, remaining life expectancy reached around 40-45. Wang clan of China, 1st century AD. Life expectancy at age 1 reached 47 years for the 72% surviving the first year. Early Middle Ages, Europe, from the late 5th or early 6th century to the 10th century. A Gaulish boy surviving to age 20 might expect to live 25 more years, while a woman at age 20 could normally expect about 17 more years. Anyone who survived until 40 had a good chance of another 15 to 20 years. Pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. Expectation of life at birth 1336 years for various pre-Columbian Mesoamerican cultures, most of the results lying in the range 24-32 years. Aztec life expectancy 41.2 years for men and 42.1 for women. Late Medieval English. Around a third of infants died in their first year. Life expectancy at age 10 reached 32.2 remaining years, and for those who survived to 25, the remaining life expectancy was 23.3 years. Early modern Britain, 16th–18th century. 18th century male life expectancy at birth was 34 years. Female expectation of remaining years at age 15 rose from 33 years around the 15th to 16th centuries to 42 in the 18th century. 18th century England. For most of the century it ranged from 35 to 40, but in the 1720s it dipped as low as 25. During the second half of the century it averaged 37, while for the elite it passed 40 and approached 50. Pre-Champlain Canadian Maritimes. Samuel de Champlain wrote that in his visits to Mi'kmaq and Huron communities, he met people over 100 years old. Daniel Paul attributes the incredible lifespan in the region to low stress and a healthy diet of lean meats, diverse vegetables, and legumes. 18th century American colonies. Massachusetts colonists who reached the age of 50 could expect to live until 71, and those who were still alive at 60 could expect to reach 75. Beginning of the 19th century. At the beginning of the 19th century, no country in the world had a life expectancy at birth longer than 40 years. England, Belgium, and the Netherlands came closest, each reaching 40 years by the 1840s, by which time they had been surpassed by Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. English life expectancy at birth reached 41 years in the 1840s, 43 in the 1870s and 46 in the 1890s, though infant mortality remained at around 150 per thousand throughout this period. Public health measures are credited with much of the recent increase in life expectancy. During the 20th century, despite a brief drop due to the 1918 flu pandemic, the average lifespan in the United States increased by more than 30 years, of which 25 years can be attributed to advances in public health. The impact of AIDS on life expectancy is notable in many African countries. In the United States, African American people have shorter life expectancies than their European American counterparts. For example, white Americans in 2010 are expected to live until age 78.9, but Black Americans only until age 75.1. Asian American women live the longest of all ethnic groups in the United States, with a life expectancy of 85.8 years. The life expectancy of Hispanic Americans is 81.2 years. Cities experience a wide range of life expectancy based on neighborhood breakdowns. This is largely due to economic clustering and poverty conditions that tend to associate based on geographic location. Life expectancy is higher in rich countries with low economic inequality. Economic circumstances affect life expectancy. For example, in the United Kingdom, life expectancy in the wealthiest and richest areas is several years higher than in the poorest areas. This may reflect factors such as diet and lifestyle, as well as access to medical care. It may also reflect a selective effect. People with chronic life-threatening illnesses are less likely to become wealthy or to reside in affluent areas. In Glasgow, the disparity is amongst the highest in the world. Life expectancy for males in the heavily deprived Calton area stands at 54, which is 28 years less than in the affluent area of Lenzie, which is only 8 kilometers, 5.0 miles, away. A 2013 study found a pronounced relationship between economic inequality and life expectancy. Tapia Granados and Ana Diaz-Rue at the University of Michigan found that life expectancy actually increased during the Great Depression, and during recessions and depressions in general. The authors suggest that when people are working at a more extreme degree during prosperous economic times, they undergo more stress, exposure to pollution, and the likelihood of injury among other longevity-limiting factors. Life expectancy is also likely to be affected by exposure to high levels of highway air pollution or industrial air pollution. This is one way that occupation can have a major effect on life expectancy. Coal miners, and in prior generations, asbestos cutters, often have lower life expectancies than average. Other factors affecting an individual's life expectancy are genetic disorders, drug use, tobacco smoking, excessive alcohol consumption, obesity, access to health care, diet, and exercise. Sex differences in life expectancy. In the present, female human life expectancy is greater than that of males, despite females having higher morbidity rates. There are many potential reasons for this. Traditional arguments tend to favor sociology-environmental factors. Historically, men have generally consumed more tobacco, alcohol, and drugs than women in most societies, and are more likely to die from many associated diseases such as lung cancer, tuberculosis, and cirrhosis of the liver. Men are also more likely to die from injuries, whether unintentional, such as occupational, war, or car wrecks, or intentional, suicide. Men are also more likely to die from most of the leading causes of death, some already stated above, than women. Some of these in the United States include cancer of the respiratory system, motor vehicle accidents, suicide, cirrhosis of the liver, emphysema, prostate cancer, and coronary heart disease. These far outweigh the female mortality rate from breast cancer and cervical cancer. In the past, mortality rates for females in childbearing age groups were higher than for males at the same age. About 90% of individuals aged 110 are female. The difference in life expectancy between men and women in the United States dropped from 7.8 years in 1979 to 5.3 years in 2005, with women expected to live to age 80.1 in 2005. Data from the United Kingdom shows the gap in life expectancy between men and women decreasing in later life. Some argue that shorter male life expectancy is merely another manifestation of the general rule, seen in all mammal species, that larger-sized individuals within a species tend, on average, to have shorter lives. In her extensive review of the existing literature, Colban concluded that the fact that women live longer than men was observed at least as far back as 1750 and that, with relatively equal treatment, today males in all parts of the world experience greater mortality than females. United Nations statistics from mid-20th century onward show that in all parts of the world, females have a higher life expectancy at age 60 than males. Of 72 selected causes of death, only 6 yielded greater female than male age-adjusted death rates in 1998 in the United States. Except for birds, for almost all of the animal species studied, males have higher mortality than females. Evidence suggests that the sex mortality differential in people is due to both biological/genetic and environmental/behavioral risk and protective factors. One recent suggestion is that mitochondrial mutations which shorten lifespan continue to be expressed in males, but less so in females, because mitochondria are inherited only through the mother. By contrast, natural selection weeds out mitochondria that reduce female survival, therefore, such mitochondria are less likely to be passed on to the next generation. This thus suggests that females tend to live longer than males. Another explanation is the unguarded X hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, one reason for why the average lifespan of males isn't as long as that of females by 18% on average, according to the study, is that they have a Y chromosome which can't protect an individual from harmful genes expressed on the X chromosome, while a duplicate X chromosome, as present in female organisms, can ensure harmful genes aren't expressed. In developed countries, starting around 1880, death rates decreased faster among women, leading to differences in mortality rates between males and females. Before 1880, death rates were the same. In people born after 1900, the death rate of 50 to 70-year-old men was double that of women of the same age. Men may be more vulnerable to cardiovascular disease than women, but this susceptibility was evident only after deaths from other causes, such as infections, started to decline. Most of the difference in life expectancy between the sexes is accounted for by differences in the rate of death by cardiovascular diseases among persons aged 50-70. Genetics of aging. The heritability of lifespan is estimated to be less than 10%, meaning the majority of variation in lifespan is attributable due to differences in environment rather than genetic variation. However, researchers have identified regions of the genome which can influence the length of life and the number of years lived in good health. For example, a genome-wide association study of 1 million lifespans found 12 genetic loci which influenced lifespan by modifying susceptibility to cardiovascular and smoking-related disease. The locus with the largest effect is APO. Carriers of the APO epsilon 4 allele live approximately 1 year less than average, per copy of the epsilon 4 allele, mainly due to increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. Health span, parental lifespan, and longevity are highly genetically correlated. In July 2020, scientists identified 10 genomic loci with consistent effects across multiple lifespan-related traits, including health span, lifespan, and longevity. The genes affected by variation in these loci highlighted heme metabolism as a promising candidate for further research within the field. This study suggests that high levels of iron in the blood likely reduce, and genes involved in metabolizing iron likely increase healthy years of life in humans. A follow-up study which investigated the genetics of frailty and self-rated health in addition to health span, lifespan, and longevity also highlighted heme metabolism as an important pathway, and found genetic variants which lower blood protein levels of LPA and VCAM1 were associated with increased healthy lifespan. Centenarians, people who live to 100. In developed countries, the number of centenarians is increasing at approximately 5.5% per year, which means doubling the centenarian population every 13 years, pushing it from some 455,000 in 2009 to 4.1 million in 2050. Japan is the country with the highest ratio of centenarians, 347 for every 1 million inhabitants in September 2010. Shimane Prefecture had an estimated 743 centenarians per million inhabitants. In the United States, the number of centenarians grew from 32,194 in 1980 to 71,944 in November 2010, 232 centenarians per million inhabitants. Mental illness and life expectancy. Mental illness is reported to occur in approximately 18% of the average American population. Life expectancy in the seriously mentally ill is much shorter than the general population. The mentally ill have been shown to have a 10 to 25-year reduction in life expectancy. The greater mortality of people with mental disorders may be due to death from injury, from comorbid conditions, or medication side effects. For instance, psychiatric medications can increase the risk of developing diabetes. The psychiatric medication olanzapine can increase risk of developing agranulocytosis, among other comorbidities. Psychiatric medicines also affect the gastrointestinal tract. The mentally ill have a 4 times risk of gastrointestinal disease. Calorie restriction for longevity. One prominent and very popular theory states that lifespan can be lengthened by a tight budget for food energy called caloric restriction. Caloric restriction observed in many animals, most notably mice and rats, shows a near doubling of lifespan from a very limited calorific intake. Support for the theory has been bolstered by several new studies linking lower basal metabolic rate to increased life expectancy. That is the key to why animals like giant tortoises can live so long. Studies of humans with lifespans of at least 100 have shown a link to decreased thyroid activity, resulting in their lowered metabolic rate. DNA repair and longevity. The ability of skin fibroblasts to perform DNA repair after UV irradiation was measured in shrew, mouse, rat, hamster, cow, elephant, and human. It was found that DNA repair capability increased systematically with species lifespan. Since this original study in 1974, at least 14 additional studies were performed on mammals to test this correlation. In all, but 2 of these studies, lifespan correlated with DNA repair levels, suggesting that DNA repair capability contributes to life expectancy. In a broad survey of zoo animals, no relationship was found between investment of the animal in reproduction and its lifespan. Longevity factors. Factors that are associated with variations in life expectancy include family history, marital status, economic status, physique, exercise, diet, drug use, including smoking and alcohol consumption, disposition, education, environment, sleep, climate, and health care. Approaches being explored include fasting, exercise, and senolytic drugs. Life expectancy is one of the factors in measuring the Human Development Index, HDI, of each nation along with adult literacy, education, and standard of living. Life expectancy is used in describing the physical quality of life of an area. Disparities in life expectancy are often cited as demonstrating the need for better medical care or increased social support. A strongly associated indirect measure is income inequality. For the top 21 industrialized countries, if each person is counted equally, life expectancy is lower in more unequal countries. There is a similar relationship among states in the U.S. In all pre-modern societies, the most common age at death is the first year of life. It is only as infant mortality falls below around 33 to 34 per thousand, roughly a tenth of estimated ancient and medieval levels, that deaths in a later year of life, usually around age 80, become more numerous. While the most common age of death in adulthood among modern hunter-gatherers, often taken as a guide to the likely most favorable Paleolithic demographic experience, is estimated to average 72 years. Has the human race increased its lifespan? Not at all. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about old age: we are not living any longer. The maximum lifespan, or oldest age a human can live, may be constant. Further, there are many examples of people living significantly longer than the average life expectancy of their time period, such as Socrates, 71, Saint Anthony the Great, 105, Michelangelo, 88, and John Adams, 90. A smaller fraction of adults die at 20, at 30, at 40, at 50, and so on across the lifespan. As a result, we live longer on average. In every way we can measure, human lifespans are longer today than in the immediate past, and longer today than they were 2,000 years ago. Japan has the highest life expectancy in the world, but the reasons, says an analysis, are as much to do with equality and public health measures as diet. Reduction in health inequalities with improved average population health was partly attributable to equal educational opportunities and financial access to care. Research ties economic inequality to gap in life expectancy. Worldometers.info